But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sufjan Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know, I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in store, and exclusive access to sold out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hey, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. It's the podcast where I speak to bands and artists about how they've got through it, how many jobs they've worked. They don't have to have side jobs though. And on today's episode, Jack Steadman from Bombay Bicycle Club, who's been playing music all of his adult life. It's not about the side hustle so much as it's about the spirit and the ideas and allowing yourself the freedom to keep making records that the rest of us love. This band has permeated the mind of every young person in the UK and across the world over the last 15 years. They've kind of been such a staple in British indie. They went quiet for a few years before releasing Everything Else Has Gone Wrong in 2020, and now they're about to release their 6th album this Friday. My Big Day, the record's called, and it's the features album, as Jack says it in this episode, featuring moments with Damon Albarn, Jay Som, Holly Humberstone, and Shaka Khan, as well as on the latest single Tekken 2. Jack came down to Soho Radio to chat with me for an hour and let me ask him some questions about all the years playing in bands. I thought for a minute at the start of this that he might tire of my questions, but I think he warmed up. I think he started to enjoy it, and I dug it. It was great speaking to someone who I've seen and heard for so many years. And My Big Day is sounding mega. thanks for joining me. Cheers for listening to the show. If you like 101 Part-Time Jobs, even if you're brand new, please subscribe or leave a review or a rating if you're able to do that. I've got an amazing list of episodes coming up, including Snail Mail, Buck Meek from Big Thief, which will be tomorrow, I think, Jelani Blackman, loads of great names. So if you enjoy this, even remotely, click subscribe and you'll get notified when the next episodes come out. Before we get into this chat, I'm here with Rebecca from Eka, multi-instrumentalist, plays piano, plays saxophone, also a brand ambassador for Ampolo, which is a great brand new free app for musicians. All right, Rebecca, could you tell us a little bit about Ampolo?
Yeah, I've been using Ampolo, which is an app that came out earlier this year, actually. Smart with its AI demixing tools. So in under a minute, it will completely demix a track, which means I can take out the drums, the bass, vocals, whatever it is I want to be trying my own part over. Whereas before, I would be Googling chords and then on YouTube Googling the song and kind of flicking between the tabs while setting up my instrument and trying to practice along. It all happens in the app. And then I'm posting it to a feed if I want that social aspect of it, but I don't have to. I've been spending many hours just practicing parts and thinking, wow, this is so easy, play again and again to make sure I nail that bit.
So it's a practice tool, you can film yourself, it's free, it's out there, Ampolo. You can download it today. You're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. Hope you're doing all right. Here's Jack Steadman from Bombay Bicycle Club. 101 Part-Time Jobs.
One of my earliest memories of the band is always deciding to walk home from every gig we played, wherever it was in London, with Ed, who plays bass. And it sounds so corny, but the whole journey home, we'd just be like chatting about how amazing that night was and like how cool our lives were. And obviously these were like tiny shows playing to not many people, but there was like a couple of free beers and like all this stuff. And I don't think we've ever taken it for granted.
It's funny because I come from punk rock and like indie rock, and there's a big element of cool there, right? There's a lot of cool in Sonic Youth and punk, and it's like there's a lot of and I guess it makes sense, and I do enjoy carrying with me a bit of humility at all times, but that level of kind of whatever, it's just a bit of fun. I'm interested for where like the tension of that goes into, no, we really enjoy doing this. We want to put our time and money ultimately into it.
Yeah, it's interesting with us because there is a balance there, and I think it's interesting thinking about when we decided to take a break from the band. I think that was playing into it, realizing that maybe it was getting to the point where it was everything in our lives, and maybe that became scary. And we've never taken it so seriously, but to get to a certain level you do have to be quite ambitious, and I think taking a break let everyone in the band, and not just me doing like a musical solo project, let everyone like go and find something else for themselves, so that when we came back to the band there wasn't that tension of like, is this all there is in the world forever and ever until I die? And that was super healthy for us. Having that kind of,
it's a blessing to be awarded something so amazing, to have this kind of dynamic. But that personal growth, we all fucking need to find out things about ourselves alone.
Well, we're just always questioning everything, aren't we? And sometimes that can lead to, thinking that the grass is always greener. But I'm a huge believer in breaks from anything you're doing, in relationships and music, and even just like as a songwriter, not writing a song for 6 months.
See, that's smart. Yeah. Because like lots of people are like, yeah, fucking come on, let's have it. Give me more. No,
I mean, my earliest memory of playing an instrument was how much I hated going on holiday, which was that was the first time in my life I was like, no, I don't want to go away, because I didn't get to play like bass. And I remember coming home and how fresh it felt, and how I'd write like 10 songs straight away. And from then on I was like, I should take more breaks.
So bass was your first instrument?
Yeah, bass.
What were your first couple of songs that you learned?
Well, the first song I was ever taught was Lovely Day by Bill Withers, which is a great bass line actually. And I can remember chasing the guitar teacher around school, because I immediately forgotten how it went after he taught me. I've got quite a bad memory, so I'd be like running down the halls being like, hey, what was that thing in? And he'd always just have to sing it to me, be like, boom, 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 and I'd be like, yes, that's it.
It changed my life in Boys Music Clothes, the Viv Albertine book, where they talk about in The Slits, when someone told them at some point, or they learned, they were like, oh, you dance to the bass line in reggae, in all music. You dance that changed my life.
It's an underappreciated instrument.
Massively.
I grew up around music. Like, my dad's a huge music fan, and he plays air guitar really well. But,
lots of records in the living room.
Lots of records.
Lots of dancing.
Lots of memories of just, ear-splitting volume of music when I'd go and like have meals with him and stuff.
That's fun.
And him just like half cooking and half playing air guitar.
And he likes it. He's dug Bombay Bicycle Club.
Yeah, he couldn't be happier. He's incredibly happy that someone in the family's playing music. It's definitely his passion. Whether or not he plays music or not, it's his thing.
Was it like when you? Because 2007, 8, 9, 10, like that, those late noughties, those were the times where bands were. It was like the last kind of. This is totally from my NME reading fan point of view. Those were the last kind of years of. Like, think of the Maccabees. I'm like, okay, these are the bands who got like the bigger deals. I don't fucking know what the number is, but it's like these big deals that are potentially life changing, in the sense that you can prioritize music.
Sure.
Did you kind of know it at the time? Was there that feeling that you're getting signed to Universal or an imprint, and this was gonna change your life? That would be your thing, your main thing.
I think in a very typical Bombay way, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, we were quite cool about it because we were all about to go to university, and we had places, and we were quite interested in what we were going to be studying, and then Island Records offered us a deal, and we were kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, let's do that. And
what was that meeting like? Were they? How savvy was it?
It's hard to remember. I mean, I'd love to be a fly on the wall now because we were so young. I know, one could argue that being an 18-year-old, you're an adult, but it did feel like we were quite inexperienced, and it was quite a big decision to make, and maybe that was part of the reason we were so cool about it, because we were just when you're that age, you do feel like you're a bit invincible, and like there's still time to do whatever you want, whereas as you approach middle age, you're a bit like, I got to take this chance right now.
It's funny that, isn't it? I mean, the world's moving so quickly. These kind of pinnacles of like globalization, the world moving, is like they come shorter and shorter. It used to be like once every 10 years something world changing would happen. Now it's like kind of like every 10 months, isn't it? So I don't know if that makes our like youth longer or shorter. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's funny thinking about that time. I mean, we definitely like learned a lot very quickly by like going straight out of school and being in a band, and
like being your own bosses, being like your own, like, look, if we're not going to do this, no one's going to do it for us. You're not turning up late, or you might be turning up late, but like sneaking out the back door, and not that kind of, I guess it's childish behaviour, right? But that's kind of what being a teenager is. It's about being slightly subversive.
Yeah, and I think we were, even though I've been saying, we felt quite young. Growing up in London, I did feel like we had, we were quite experienced teenagers. You see a lot of people that when they go to university and they've never, they come from a small town and they really go for it. It's like there's all these new experiences at that age, and I think, the whole touring thing was, we felt like we had been partying for a really long time, and maybe that helped us not go too crazy when suddenly all at once we were like offered all these things and had all these crazy experiences. That probably prepared us quite well.
Have you ever struggled with that idea that it's like a privilege to play music, or like that idea of, have you had any criticism from like family or friends who are a bit like, oh, you're fucking lucky, aren't you? Because I think I've had it a few times. It's like, no, you take your opportunities, you take your chances. Not everyone's given, not everyone's, we're all born in different opportunities. I feel like you kind of got to be opportunistic, really.
I mean, we're definitely very privileged, and I think we're very happy to admit that.
Same. I mean, if you've got a parent who can buy you a guitar when you're younger,
exactly,
that's it.
Exactly. The thing I struggled with for a long time was having all these people saying, "Oh, you've worked so hard for this," and in my head, I hadn't really worked very hard, and I kept having these quite interesting conversations about how music is written, because in my mind, it wasn't me like, spending hours and hours and putting the graft in to try and get something great, because the best songs were always the easiest to write, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
It's that cliche of like they come so quickly when they're the timeless songs. And so I didn't, in my mind, I was like a pretty lazy person that kind of went to the studio once in a while. And I guess I was thinking, do you deserve all this in a way? In the sense that it's not like time put in equals result. I don't want to like sound like I'm here like whining about it, but I just thought it always brought up an interesting conversation about, when people say, oh, you must have worked so hard for this. It's like, the perception of how music is made rather, as opposed to how it's actually made. I guess the effort comes later. It's a bit like when you see people promoting movies and they look really tired. It's because like, you're out there, like you're quite busy promoting stuff.
But the magic is in the acting or the storytelling, and that comes from something that is, you can't quantify that.
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone's special in their own way, and if you can translate that your nuggets of gold into something that people enjoy, brilliant. If I can go for it.
I guess it's that people's conception about it would sometimes be difficult when you like come back from tour into the real world and everyone's been like just doing normal things and working hard, and no one. It's quite hard to explain what your life is like, and it can come across as like, oh, you just like fanny around and go on tour. And I've talked to lots of bands that have that strange transition period after like a 6-week tour of coming back to the real world and their friends and family. And
this stuff is becoming more and more like transparent. I feel like more and more people are talking about it. It goes with the mental health conversation, especially in the arts. I'm not sure how much we used to read about this kinds of stuff. Specifically coming off tour and feeling listless.
100%. Yeah, people are a lot more open about it, which is great. And us as a band, we talk about it way more.
With each other.
We really look after each other a lot on tour now.
That's really
just so important, because you'd have those shows where you're almost like meeting each other on stage for the first time because you've just been doing your own thing during the day, and it's really important to check in with each other. And everyone responds to the touring life very differently. Yeah. And
are you suited for it?
It's been so long because the last record we put out was just before the pandemic. I haven't done a really long one in a long time, but
miss it.
I loved it. I mean, I'm a very introverted person, and there's something, I guess we kind of touched on it, but there's something like that. It's not really based in reality being on tour. You can be very selfish and spend the entire day on your own. Whereas in my home life, if I do that, I'm a bit of a dick. Like I should go and spend time with my partner and my child. And I do like that freedom of, you can be very selfish on tour and go and do whatever you want to do with your day. And I do like just spending time by myself.
You were kind of it's probably just past the time when people were being kind of dicks for the hell of it in the sort of the Britpop kind of era, wasn't it?
You'd see it in a lot of like smaller bands. But yeah, generally, you mentioned bands like the Maccabees, and there was quite a nice scene.
Wholesome.
Yeah, it was pretty wholesome. I'd say.
Now, my big day was listening to it this morning. Rural radio predicts the rapture.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that song title. It's quite hard to say.
But that changes the. I was like, oh shit, that's a bit of a moment in the record.
Yeah, it's a bit of a fuck you, that song, I think.
Is it?
It's a good example of like where our heads are at right now, in that we may have been a bit apprehensive to put a song like that on a previous album. And I think this one, basically, to give it some context, how I write a song is I'll just be making like beats, essentially, like my solo project, just like sampling stuff, putting a beat over it, making a lot of electronic music. And sometimes that translates well if you add guitars and vocals to it, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think this is we're getting closer and closer to that line of like, is it Bombay or not? And in like a cool way. Like I think we just said, as long as we're like vibing this, then let's put it on our record. And if someone says that's a bit of a departure, then fuck it. Like, people now more than ever have eclectic music tastes, so let's not patronize our audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, they can't handle this, it's too different. Like, yeah, of course they can. They listen to all types of music and they're interested in all types of things. So,
and people like to have now, especially after the COVID break and this kind of experience economy, people want to go out and have fun. There's that feeling that people kind of want to send it.
Yeah,
people want to go a bit mad and party.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that song live. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that Live at Brixton record is so great. How you can hear the audience, so loudly.
That was a fun show. That's probably, we were talking about that the other day, because that's like for us that a healthy amount of nostalgia, and then we move on and make some more music. But doing a 10-year anniversary record, it was easy for us to it was tempting for us to do more of those, and we got an anniversary coming up of So Long See You Tomorrow and stuff. But I think that's enough for now. And it was a beautiful night, but it's for bands of that era and bands like us, I think you got to be careful about how much of that you play into.
There's a lot of decision making to be made, right?
For sure.
And you're your own bosses.
Yeah, we have good people that advise us. We got an amazing manager who's been with us since we were literally like doing our GCSEs. So
really,
that's really important to us.
And were they an experienced manager at the time?
Enough, experienced enough. They weren't, like a friend that was just jumping on and doing it. But we've kind of grown together.
Yeah.
And so there's that kind of equality as well.
That growing together seems to be the thing.
I mean, that's the dream. That's what everyone wants, right? Whenever we're like looking for like a music director or an art director, you're always trying to find someone that's you can like move up together, right? Rather than someone that's been doing it for years.
Because you've got the impetus to do it, like the enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
It's not like one-sided or balanced.
Exactly. So yeah, we've had lots of. Like I say about being very lucky and not just privileged, but just like meeting the right people. I don't think we could have done it without people like that.
Yeah.
Just especially when you start a band at school and leave and sign a deal, you got to have good advice. You got to have people that you trust around you. And that's probably the single most important thing, I think, for an artist.
And one of the
having
things
good
that you
management.
Don't get to choose.
Yeah, it's so hard to find a good one. It's the one thing when people, obviously you get lots of people that say, hey, can you give me some advice? Like, what should I do? I write songs and I want to do this. And it's just like, you always say, hey, just get a good manager. But then you realize that's a dick answer, because it's easier said than done, just because you were lucky to find one.
I feel like maybe one of the answers is to just kind of try and like just don't stop yourself from asking a question or emailing that person.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're not allowed to do something. I think we're as humans, we're quite good at not letting ourselves do things that we actually want to do.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of self-deprecating artists out there that don't have confidence.
How have you your routine? How have you found finding your routine, and does that routine evolve all the time? I mean, the more I do this show, the more I think that songwriters are a lot like authors. You sit in front of the typewriter or the computer, and it almost from a lot of what I've read or interviews with authors, it's like, as long as you do those 2 hours at 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. or in the evening, that's kind of key to it. It's like the nuts and bolts come first and the magic follows.
Yes, no, I've read that, and I've had short stints of attempting it, but I just can't. I'm not motivated enough. And so I guess my tactic is just to listen to other music and steal parts of it. And I know I'm happy to admit that, because I know I'm not alone in the last sort of 2,000 years of making art.
You can't.
I'm certainly not alone in doing that. And I steal is a very loaded word. I'm talking about sampling music, and we're always crediting the people that we sample.
Hey, we like the Beastie Boys.
It's my favorite form of making music right now, and it has been for a long time.
That's fun. When did you ever feel a bit of tension between that and being an indie band?
Yeah, I mean, when we started, I was doing it, but not in the band. I had my side project of like my MPC, and more they just blended together. And I do think it creates something unique, and as long as you're honest about it and not ashamed, and you do, give credit where it's due, and if you do that, then it's this wonderful thing, because we get fans coming up to us and saying, hey, I love that like Lata Mangeshkar Bollywood record that's on the sleeve of your album that you credited. Like it leads people down rabbit holes, which is great. I mean, that's my favorite thing to do, go down a musical rabbit hole.
I think that's why a lot of us are here still, after being teenage music fans, because we read those liner notes, we read the thanks and the record label, and we followed that thread. That's the beauty.
Props to the people that do. Yeah.
And now, I mean, bedroom pop, I guess, is the kind of catch-all word for it. well, it means people producing music at home, because we can, everyone can.
Yeah.
That really kind of explodes that idea of having fun with sampling, making it your own thing.
Well, I mean, that's how I started making music, and I found a hard drive with all my old music on it from when I'm sort of 15, I think. And there's I've sampled Peter and the Wolf. There's like a drum and bass remix of that. There's a Buena Vista Social Club remix on there, and it's just funny because I kind of forgot about it. But before I'm like even like getting the tape machine out and playing guitar, I'm like chopping up records. They're probably like my dad's records, and just having fun, like slicing them up and rearranging them.
Seeing that a lot in, I mean, obviously sampling is hip hop, but the kind of the like Odd Future and Mac Miller with that crossover, like that Mac Miller Thundercat really hit me hard, because I was like, oh my God, I'm sure it's things have other happened like that, but for me, I was like, I've never sort of heard or seen something so like that with Thundercat, and being introduced to that world.
Yeah, nice.
That was amazing. What were your kind of watershed moments for that?
Yeah, I mean, apart from these early records I was just talking about, it's probably our album So Long See You Tomorrow, which was the one we released just before we took a break, and it was probably like the most successful record we'd made, and that was the first time I was very open about what I was doing and talking about these records. I went to India for a long time and just like was record collecting for ages and wrote loads of music there, and
brilliant.
It was a kind of a celebration of that, and it was this very colourful album, and it seemed like people really got it, and that made me happy, and I've now even got more reason to continue doing it.
What was your time in India like? What was your setup? Could you have a room with a record player? And
yeah, I had the studio in Mumbai, and it was a very, very happy time. I was like staying like a train ride away, and there was this wonderful train with no doors, and so you'd hang to try and stay cool, you just hang out of the side of it with I had hair back then, so obviously my hair was in the wind.
Get your block chopped off.
Just listening, I remember I'd always just come home with my head out of the window, listening to what I'd just done, and just feeling really excited about the world and like what was about to happen. And yeah, very happy memories.
Fuck yeah. I mean, and like this is, I meant to say at the start of the show, really I speak to a lot of people who are still working part-time jobs. Some of those bands are headlining stages at Reading and are on major record labels, and they're working at supermarkets in between, and everyone's in a different situation. But what I wanted to say to you at the very start was that I think the reason why doing something like this works, we're talking with you, is because things like that, where you can create a structure where you are building your world, like that's the 101 part-time jobs, because there's 101 jobs in moving to fucking India, getting your flat, where's the studio, where's the train, there's you're still waking up there with either written down or in your head a checklist of things that you need to do to make it work. Just because you're the one telling yourself to do that rather than having a line manager or a boss.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess it didn't feel like that at the time.
Right, you were pretty like, okay, this is you were rolling basically. You're rolling with it.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, looking back, it was a cool time.
When you did when you took the break, I mean, it's such a. I mean, I've said it already a few times, but you seem very smart and level-headed, and the four of you seem to get along so well and be able to have those kind of adult conversations. And Jamie's been working on some seriously cool stuff.
Yeah, I've
been seeing him tweeting about that.
Some kind of think tank that he works at. I mean, it's mind blowing. Yeah. I don't know how he has the time for it all.
I mean, it seems like it's wholesome. Yeah, but it feels like that's the way to create and produce something good, is to kind of do things when you want to.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think we could have done this for as long as we could without just being like reasonable people that get on well with each other and can be open with each other. And there was something to be said about choosing that time to take a break, because that, like I said, that record did do really well, and we were super busy. And maybe, at the beginning we were talking about taking stuff for granted. Maybe that was the closest we got to feeling like, oh yeah, this is just normal. And you should never get there, right? That's the best time to step away, do something else, and realize that actually it wasn't normal at all. It's amazing what you're doing, and you should be grateful for it.
Be a little bit on edge, or maybe on edge, or you can be on edge in a good way, of course.
Yeah, just start to miss it.
Yeah.
And I think we should maybe, just do it every like 10 years or so, right? I mean, that's very middle-aged. It's like to plan your sabbatical.
101, 101 part-time jobs. 101, 101, 101 part-time jobs. People love I remember there's a kind of mainstream media kind of obsession of bands breaking up. You know what I mean? Like there was news articles like you were like bands breaking up. It's like it's a hiatus. You know, it's kind of a. I mean, I know I'm literally asking you about it right now, but it's
I remember that. I remember you
interesting.
saying it's a hiatus. It's a hiatus. Now we had to make that clear, but we didn't really know what was going to happen. But we all had a great time doing our own thing.
And how does that work? Like logistically, because you've got a manager, you've got a record label. Do those things kind of go on ice? Does everyone wait for you? I mean, did you kind of have like an obligation to?
Well, luckily I just continued making music, and so the manager stayed with managing me, and the label, I just released it with them, and it all worked out really well.
Great.
Yeah, it was fun.
Mr. Jukes is ace.
Yeah, thanks.
I spoke with Barney Artist.
Oh, cool.
A year or two ago. It just sounds fun. I mean, what's your relationship with London been like in terms of going out, clubbing or going to gigs and finding new music? Because has London remained that kind of like exciting place where every weekend feels a bit different?
I mean, it hasn't for the last 7 years of my life, but yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, for sure. And I think having access to all these record shops and live shows and just the people that you meet, especially for the Mr. Juke stuff where I was collaborating with people a lot, and the South London jazz scene at the time was thriving, and I was getting a lot of musicians from that scene to play in my band. And
why not in the last 7 years?
Oh, just I'm quite a homebody now. Is that the word? Homebody?
Yeah. You can go back, you can pinpoint a moment where you're like, okay, around this time, that was when you were like, okay, I'm going to stay in. I'll get a takeaway one night a week.
Yeah, I think
go down the road, shop locally.
I think it just sounded more interesting to me to like be at home and just doing my own thing.
I'm going through a thing as well. I thought for a long time, I thought going out and seeing friends all the time would make me I wouldn't I'd say it would make me a better person, but it was like that would give me more like a richer life.
Right, yeah.
And I'm experiencing just only the last year or two, definitely something to do with having a flat in an area that I like.
Yeah, maybe that's it, when I started living alone.
Really?
Or just with my partner anyway. But I'm actually really enjoying this time of life where I think it's quite normal. Your circle of friends and family gets shrunk but more meaningful. And that I think that's much easier to deal with, and I value that a lot more than it all being a bit wild.
It can go quite deep in that great way. I feel like now if I'm worried about something I said, I'm far more likely now to text them the next day or even leave them a voice note and be like, oh, if I made that bad joke, sorry. And 100% of the time it's like, shut up, you're fine.
Yeah, I love that. It's always voice notes when it's like the real meaning, like deep stuff that you have to talk about.
It.
It's hard to express it on text sometimes.
Yeah, you can get in trouble with text, can't you?
You have to use a lot of emojis.
Have you? Are you one for? When was the last time you sent someone a text that wasn't supposed to receive it?
I actually hate I'm one of those really annoying people that calls you, and I know people hate it, and I mean I don't know why. I think it's not that weird to do, but I hate just like having to use my thumbs on my phone. And someone texts me and asks a question, and I'll just I know they hate that I do this, but I just immediately call them, and they won't pick up because they're like, why the fuck is he calling me? Just text me back.
And you're watching it ring out, and they've literally just been online.
I know they're online. Yeah,
that's really funny. Have you got the blue ticks on your WhatsApp? Have you got that turned off?
I think I do have that. Yeah. No, can you turn that off?
You can turn it off.
Oh, maybe I should do that.
I haven't turned it off as a kind of as a kind of digging my heels in kind of way. Like as almost as a protest.
Nice.
I don't mind if you see me if I've left you on red, because it's probably because it'll be for a reason. It won't be for a conceited reason.
Totally. Yeah, I do find it strange, the pressure to have to reply really quickly. I think we should treat them like emails.
Big time. I mean, I think it's more conceited when people have turned the blue ticks off.
Yes.
Because it's like a presumption.
Let's go back to postcards.
Have you had any friends that you've written letters to in the past?
I used to do this a lot when I was on tour, and I loved it. and I used to write to my grandma a lot.
Nice.
And yeah, I don't. This is just another thing that I've stopped doing. Maybe I have to get back into it.
It's my girlfriend's just bought us 2 little books that we're going to write in a mini diary.
Oh, nice.
You know, things to appreciate,
Yeah,
things to be
yeah.
thankful for, gratitude.
That's one of those things that at the time you're like, man, this is such a drag, and then 10 years later you're so happy that you did it.
This is the thing. Yeah, and again, you know, like, it's not even a tenuous link, but it's bringing it around to, you know, it's a routine. You know, we've all got routines.
Yeah.
You know, I've often wondered why, as a sort of a lover of reading reviews features of bands, and like, why are we so interested in artists' lives? Why do we watch the 3-hour documentary on the Eagles?
Yeah.
Like, why do we care so much? And I think it's because we take away from those stories in our own lives.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I always think about that when I'm doing these. When, you know, we're about to release an album and you get interviewed a lot, and sometimes you are a bit like, why does it matter so much how I did it?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not being cynical. I get it. Like, people find it interesting.
Yeah. And there's a traditional way of doing music journalism, which is asking you, how did you write it? When did you write it?
Yes.
Who did you write it with?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's just like a starter question to get the conversation flowing.
That's the antidote of what I'm about.
Yeah. No, I've noticed and I'm enjoying it.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs. Still, everyone's had side hustles. Everyone's had kind of part-time jobs. Everyone's had little short-lived careers.
Yes.
Does anything spring to mind? Any real memories?
Well, I started a degree when we took a break in astronomy, and for a little while there, I really thought I was going to continue that, and I did 1 year, and then the band got back together, and I haven't had time, but it's still there. It's an open university course, so I think I've got like 20 years to complete it.
It's in the new video. There's a couple of Saturns and stargazing.
Yeah, I'd hope to finish it one day. I found it very interesting.
How deep did you get into it? Did you make friends on the course, and were you doing a lot of outside reading?
No friends. But I loved it. It's that classic thing of realizing that you were just too young to go to school and enjoy it. And I suddenly became a real advocate for delaying that whole experience for people, because I actually wanted to learn. And when I was at school, I had absolutely no interest in that. And I do think if you just, moved everything 5 years back, even a 23-year-old might have more interest than an 18-year-old. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it in terms of the side hustles. But I think it was a bit of an antidote to, we're talking about the songwriting experience, and I realized how much I loved doing an equation that had a definitive answer. And you did have a relationship between effort put in and result. Because with music, it wasn't happening. Like, I could spend months on something, on a problem that didn't get solved because it was still a bad song. And there's nothing I could do to rescue it. You couldn't intellectualize it. And then here was this thing that if I just studied hard enough, someone would tell me that I did, it was right. And I know that's silly because there's nothing right or wrong about music. But in my head, it was like, a satisfaction that was black and white. And that was a great thing to have alongside being a musician.
That's really interesting. I think we're allowed to enjoy that satisfaction, even if we know it may be kind of superficial in some lenses. It still makes you feel good.
Yeah, right. It's like a little serotonin rush. And I'd love to continue doing it for that. I think it's very healthy for someone whose work is so subjective. Yeah.
I think having order in the chaos is some order.
Yeah, exactly.
In that chaos. I think that's very Bombay Bicycle Club, actually.
Yeah.
I think there's order to that chaos.
Right, yeah.
So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of riffing. There's a lot of fretboard action.
Yeah.
And it's fun. But in some sense, all your records, and especially My Big Day, it feels contained in a very manageable, satisfying sense.
Nice, yeah. I hope so. I think we have a good process where maybe when I'm on my own fleshing out the song, it's chaotic, but the four of us come together and maybe tame it a bit and I don't want to say make sense because that sounds boring, but we're definitely very good at editing. And I think the key for us is that one band member comes up with the idea and the rest are entirely they can be objective about it because they weren't involved in the songwriting process. Whereas I picture bands writing music together in a rehearsal room and everyone having that satisfaction of being involved, that when you come to ask yourself, is it good? You're biased because you're having such a good time.
Yeah, you're feeling that emotion.
You're having, you're happy and you're like, yeah, this is a good song because look at us, we're all smiling. Whereas I send a very cold email with an MP3 and I'm like, new song, and Jamie can just listen to it like in the bath and just be like, this fucking sucks. And I want him to be as blunt as that, because if it does, then great, we'll move on and try again.
You're building it, right? If you're building you're building anything, there's going to be like, okay, no, that's the wrong size.
I'd rather not waste any time on it and just know, and people just tell me that it sucks. I think over the years I've gotten pretty good at not taking that personally.
Makes sense, right? You're looking at the end goal, like looking at you want to be something that you're proud of.
That's how we end up with 10 songs that have passed that quite rigorous test of everyone replying to the email being like, yeah, this is great.
Excellent. And love Jay Som, love Holly Humberstone.
Yeah, it's the features record, which is fun. I mean, why not? The pandemic probably showed us more than, maybe me more than anyone else, who's quite afraid of, collaborating over the internet. But I think it showed everyone that you can do great stuff without having to be in a room with someone. So why not?
Yeah, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Nice one. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun talking to you.
So there he was, Jack Steadman of Bombay Bicycle Club here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this, please click subscribe or leave a review or a rating. All that stuff does me and the show wonders and means I can keep on getting brilliant guests. Like I said earlier, we got episodes coming up with Snail Mail, Jelani Blackman, Pip Blom, Buck Meek from Big Thief coming tomorrow. I've also got a newsletter on 101parttimejobs.com called P45 RPMs. See what I did there? And every Sunday, I'll be gracing your inboxes with some exclusive content, some stories, some extra Q&As, and some background info on a lot of these interviews I'm doing. I book all these shows myself. I edit them myself. I've got my little desk at home. I feel like it's becoming my purpose in life. Thank you so much for joining me on this. It's so much fun. I love hearing these stories that we don't really hear elsewhere. It's not about the struggle, it's about the challenge. You know what I'm saying? Right. Thanks so much, and I'll be back, tomorrow with Buck Meek from Big Thief. What a band. See you then.
I've been working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 101. 101.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.